Part 5. Identity, Fraud and Security. Up to this point I've talked about signal quality and validity and decision risk. We're going to shift the focus again now, because once AI is used at scale in hiring, the question's no longer about assessment quality, it also becomes a security issue. Most hiring processes assume the person who applies is the same one you assess and the same one you hire that turns up on day one. That made sense when interviews were in person and when documents were harder to fake. But the increase in remote hiring has made identity checks more difficult, while impersonation has become easier thanks to generative and other types of AI. The result is a problem that is becoming more and more widespread. So let's start with proxy interviewing, when the candidate you're interviewing is not the person you think they are. It's not a theoretical risk, it's already happening. A candidate interviews and passes, but on day one a different person shows up. And then there's real-time assistance during interviews. And it's not about preparation because everyone prepares. The issue is live tools that listen to interview questions and generate answers on screen. You see fluent, structured answers. You don't see whether the person actually understands the work. Identity substitution is an even bigger concern. Deepfake audio and video are no longer experimental. They're accessible. In some sectors, particularly remote IT work, there are now documented cases of entirely fabricated candidates. In a few instances, these are linked to organised fraud operations and, in extreme cases, state-sponsored activity. It's clear this is not just an HR issue, it's an enterprise risk. A bad hire used to be a performance issue. Someone didn't work out, you managed them out and moved on. Now the risks of hiring the wrong person include IP exposure, data access, regulatory breaches and reputational damage. The hiring process is the front door to the organisation. But let's not overreact. Most candidates are not committing fraud. Most organisations are not under attack. The mistake would be to panic or clamp down across the board. But it is a reason to stop treating hiring as separate from security. In many organisations, HR owns the process, IT owns the systems, and legal owns the risk. That made sense when hiring was slow and local. It makes less sense when decisions are automated, remote, and scalable. If your hiring process can be gamed, it will be. Not because candidates are unethical, but because the incentives and the tools have changed and evolved. So how can employers respond to this practically? Well, first, it doesn't mean banning AI. That's not enforceable, and in many roles it's counterproductive. If the job requires AI-assisted work, banning AI in hiring filters out the people you want. And it doesn't mean relying on AI detection tools. These can be unreliable and inconsistent and hard to defend if challenged. It also does not mean pushing the problem onto recruiters by asking for better interview skills. The response has to be structural. First, treat identity assurance as part of hiring, not an afterthought. This doesn't mean biometric surveillance, it means being clear about when and how you confirm the same person is present throughout the process. Second, stop relying on artifacts that can be easily faked or proxied. Static CVs, generic interviews, rehearsed answers, they're all weak points. They reward polish over substance and invite misuse. Third, build points in the process where capability must be demonstrated in real time. Not perfect performance, but real thinking, live problem solving and decisions under constraint. These are harder to fake and easier to defend. And fourth, accept that HR now sits closer to risk and security than it used to. It's not a loss of autonomy, it's a recognition of impact. When hiring decisions scale, then their consequences scale too. The intention isn't to turn talent acquisition into a police function. It's about acknowledging that hiring is now part of the organisation's control environment. And like any control, it has to be designed for the world it operates in and not the one it used to. Now, in my final video, I'll pull all of this together and talk about what hiring needs to become next. Not as a set of rules, but as an operating model that restores signal, reduces risk, and still respects candidates.